Cadance Owens. I saw her, I don't know how long ago I saw her. It was not that long ago because you haven't been doing it that long. And there were like 167 hits on this video. And I thought, wow, this girl has got it all. She's beautiful, she's smart, she's ladylike, and she's telling the truth. She has a web, what do you call it? A vlog, I guess, called Red Pill Black. Makes sense, right? Take the red pill as part of this movement where leftists take the red pill and suddenly wake up to reality, which is conservative. That's the thing. I'm going to play a long clip of Candace's reaction to Charlottesville, which is the first one I ever saw, and that will give her time to be lowered from the ceiling with the gay guys with the sparkling top hats.
If you are a black person and you express some irrational fears this week over the rise of the Klansmen and neo-Nazis, let me invite you over for a cup of hot steaming facts. Fact number 1. Approximately 93% of black homicide victims are killed by other black people. In 2014, 6,095 black people were killed, and virtually all of them were killed by other black people. Black Lives Matter protesters may want to consider extending their slogan to "Don't shoot," because we've already got it covered. And you're not special, white people. Seriously, in 2012, 84% of white homicides were committed by other white people. Go figure. It's like we're all racist towards our own selves. Nobody wants us dead more than we want ourselves dead. I mean, there are, 6,000 Klansmen left in our nation? You want me to actually process that as a legitimate fear every day when I wake up? It's Donald Trump's fault that they're feeling energized. It's Obama's fault that Black Lives Matter is violent. Both of you children, to your room. It's obviously the media's fault. I mean, the media is creating this entire narrative, and it is crazy, absolutely crazy to me that people have not figured this out yet. I mean, why do you think we didn't hear a single thing about David Duke, white supremacy, and the KKK the entire time Obama was in office? Do you think that they were all hiding underground, waiting for the next white president, meeting by the light of the moon? Do you really actually believe that they weren't still meeting, holding protests, having rallies and marches? Maybe the media wasn't covering it.
So I got to say, Candace, welcome to the show. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I saw that. You know, I did some of the early right-wing videos at PJ TV, and I saw that and I thought, wow, there's the next gang. This is great. And before I got you on the show, everybody discovered you. So I feel really bad that I'm like the last guy to have you on.
It's all right.
Tell me who you are. How did you get to this? You seem like such a nice person. What are you doing in a place like this?
You know, everyone asks me what my background is and what sort of inspired me to get into this. I really am just a girl that makes videos, and the climate was just the right time. Got super fed up with sort of the increasingly wild liberal antics and the identity politics, and if you're black, you have to think this way, if you're white, you have to think this way, and I just wanted to inject, I guess, a more millennial voice into it. And yeah, I just started making videos.
Did you start out as a liberal?
I did. I think everybody starts out as a liberal. There's that expression, if you're not a liberal when you're young, you don't have a heart. But I don't think I ever was a liberal, which I think might be true of a lot of people. They just aren't aware. If you're not actively involved in politics, you're not thinking about this stuff, you know, every single day, you just sort of assume that liberal means freedom, and why wouldn't someone want to be a liberal? The word sounds better than conservative, right? Like, you know,
I know.
right? I'm a liberal.
Right.
But I've always been sort of a person that wants to be able to think freely. And unfortunately, you can't really do that when you're a liberal. You have to sort of become the person according to your gender or according to the color of your skin. So you're actually in a mental prison.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you are the target of you're the person the Democrats look at and she's ours. She belongs to us. You know, was there a road to Damascus moment? Did something happen?
Yeah. So I always put on all of my social media pages that I was force-fed the red pill, and that's very true. I don't know that many of your listeners are familiar with the Gamergate scandal.
Most, I think they are, because I kind of covered it a little bit myself.
Yeah, I certainly wasn't. I'm not a gamer. The extent of my gaming is Mario Kart. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I'm sorry, get out of it.
But yeah, I had created a company, an anti-bullying startup that was really close to my heart due to some things I went through in college.
Anti-bullying? Is that what you...
Yeah, which is interesting, right? You would think that the leftists would eat this up, right? Anti-bullying, it's their brand. And I put like a 3-minute video on Kickstarter just trying to raise some starting funds to flesh out this idea. And I was contacted pretty swiftly by a woman named Zoe Quinn, who is apparently, you know, victim one of the Gamergate scandal.
Yes, right, of course.
And she calls me and she essentially threatens me and she tells me to take down my Kickstarter. And if people don't understand this, she's got an arm in Twitter, an arm in Google. At the time, she was running an anti-harassment chapter for Twitter. And she told me to take it down because she didn't want trolls to be exposed on the internet, which is very weird since the whole reason she's a victim is because trolls attacked her. I obviously didn't comply with this phone call. You know, I said, you know, I'm sorry that happened to you, but this project is something that I'm really passionate about. And she basically told me if I didn't pull it down, then she knew that anonymous white males were going to attack me on the internet. I didn't pull it down. I was suddenly attacked on the internet within hours, flooded 4,000 maybe emails.
Wow.
Like it was like a
Really?
unit. Yeah, like she's definitely connected. It was like a mass attack. My Kickstarter pulled my project down without telling me why.
You're kidding. This is like the mob. It's like
Yeah.
a protection racket. Nice
Yeah.
story you have here. I'd hate to see anything happen to you.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
terrifying to go through. I mean, especially because I was a nobody at the time. Nobody knows my name, and I was just attacked. You know, I don't know, nigger, die, we're gonna dox your family. Everything that was.
Really?
They put up a map of my family on 4chan, down to like my 80-year-old grandfather who can't see and lives in North Carolina.
Now, this is the woman who's complaining that the gamers were harassing her, right?
Correct. She harassed me. And so I tweeted and said, like, you know, pretty clear, I'm not an idiot, that this girl is trying to make me think gamers are attacking me.
Right.
It's pretty obvious that, you know, she sent this, like, you know, she's harassing herself. I totally think that this woman is not a victim. And the second that I put that out on Twitter, I was contacted by the left media, the Washington Post. Imagine, I'm a girl who's nobody.
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
is the Washington Post calling a girl that has a 3-minute Kickstarter up
Right.
about anti-bullying? I had New York Magazine calling me, The Guardian calling me, and at the time I thought, oh great, I can get the story out. They're going to want this. They're journalists. This is the Washington Post.
You innocent child.
I know. I was not very smart. And they ended up trying to run hit pieces on me, basically trying to say that I fell into a conspiracy theory, you know, and that, you know, Zoe was a victim, was, you know, trying to help me. Everything I spoke about on the phone with them, like they already had written the article and just wanted to back it up with like, we spoke to her.
I didn't know the story at all. This is an amazing story.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And the Washington Post, I actually caught them trying to smear me. And fortunately, somebody gave me a heads up because they were calling around trying to basically cut us off by the feet in terms of like funding. And yeah, so they actually ended up pulling the article before they could run the smear piece because I threatened to sue them.
Wow.
And yeah, I caught them I recorded the phone conversation, had an email, and was able to black and white be like, you guys were about to run a hit piece. So they didn't end up running it, fortunately. But, you know, by then the damage is done. You Google my name and, you know, it's associated with, oh, if this company gets funded, it's going to help pedophiles. You know, leftist trick. Use words like pedophile, racism, white nationalism when you try to take someone down. But for a private citizen, when you're not someone like Milo who can bounce back from something.
Right, because, well, he had Breitbart behind him. Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very serious and it's very scary.
So, and all you were trying to do is stop bullying, like bullying in school? Bullying?
Yeah, I was interested in how technology affects children.
I see, okay.
Primarily,
So
I just think
online
it's a
bullying,
different,
right.
it's a different generation.
Sure.
It's incredibly hard being a kid in the era of social media.
Okay, so now this starts so you become the victim of bullying.
Yeah, by the left.
And by the left. And is this when you start to say maybe something's wrong with the left?
I instantly knew. You know, I was able to think through everything very quickly, and I realized that, you know, these aren't journalists, these are hitmen. You know what I mean? These are media hitmen, and they can take down business, build people up, build them down, and, you know, so I understood that very quickly, and it was terrifying. I always say it's like, you know, if you've seen the movie 300 when they kicked the person, I was kicked down, you know, yeah, down the rabbit hole in like the most aggressive way possible.
I mean, I always say the way that the left defends itself is not by defending their ideas, but just simply saying that we on the right are evil.
Right.
So would you consider yourself a conservative now? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the only people that covered what happened to me and wrote it correctly were the white nationalist Breitbart. A journalist named Alum Bukhari, and you know, he reached out and he covered the story extensively and accurately. So imagine going to bed and thinking Breitbart is white nationalists and Washington Post are heroes, and waking up and finding the exact opposite. So it was a
So,
cool time.
so let's start with Charlottesville. I mean, it's a takedown of the argument that white nationalism is a threat. I mean, it's obviously not.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, they're jerks, but it's
Right,
obviously
yeah.
not a big threat. Right?
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, the whole idea of that is just, CNN still trying to process the fact that they lost the election. They told you not to vote for Trump, you did. So now they have to make good on all of their threats. If, when he was running, if you vote for Trump, it's going to be the KKK is coming back, the surge, he's a racist, he's sexist, he's a misogynist. So now I feel they're just trying to make it stick, So they're showing up wherever the KK is. They've always been in America, like I said, they're showing up now and giving them airtime, and they're actually the ones that are giving them power. They never had any power. No one was listening to them, and suddenly CNN is like, you guys have to be relevant again for the next 4 years. So,
So do you get pushback? I mean,
yeah, actually, the response has been overwhelmingly very positive,
Yeah.
and what's been very interesting is that there's an international response to it. I have fans in France and fans in Brazil. They're dubbing the videos in Portuguese, which I don't know if in Brazil there are white nationalists, but clearly I've hit something.
well, I think some of the Nazis escaped there.
Right? Because people say, oh, she must just be followed by white nationalists. Well, I don't think there are white nationalists in Brazil. But
I mean, this is one of the things that's really frustrating. I mean, one of the reasons, if I had to list like 3 reasons, one of the reasons I became a conservative was because I saw what leftism was doing for poor, not just black people, poor people.
Right.
For poor people, it's really bad for
Right.
poor people, and yet they tar us with this racist idea.
Right.
I mean, I know most of the big conservatives in the country. I don't know any racists.
Right,
I'm
right.
not saying they're not
Right.
there. I'm just saying they're not in the conservative movement. They're
Right.
not allowed in the conservative movement
Right.
because we reject them. So it's very frustrating when we see someone like you. We all kind of think like, oh, thank you. You know?
Right. Yeah.
It's like this
Yeah.
kind of relief. You also attack feminism, though. You horrible person.
Yeah.
I hate feminism.
And I want to be very clear. Old and tried and true feminism, of
Right.
course.
Yep.
That's why I'm able to vote. It's why, but it's not what it is
Wait, you're
anymore.
able
You
to
can't.
vote? Who did
How'd that happen?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry.
But what it's become, people think that you can just use the word and completely change its meaning, and suddenly oh, you still have to back it because it's feminism.
It's
I'm like,
leftism.
this is not feminism anymore.
Right.
This is like a crazy attack on men. It's breaking down families. It's stressing women out. Have a baby, get right back to work tomorrow. And I don't think it's good. I just find it to be toxic. And God forbid you say you're not a feminist, and they care more about the word than they do about the fact that women are. You think they'd support me. I'm an African American woman. I am an entrepreneur, but they don't want you unless you say that you're a feminist. And the causes are all BS. It's just. I absolutely hate feminism. I think it's so toxic. I'm so over it. Lena Dunham, it's just unbearable,
And nobody watches her show. This is what they don't tell you. Every article says what a hit it is, but it's not.
Yeah,
Nobody
no.
saw it.
Yeah.
So does this? I mean, I had terrible problems. I lost friends. I've lost family. I lost jobs over this. Has this been a problem for you in personal ways? I mean, I don't want to,
Yeah, no.
pry.
So in terms of my family, they've been, so supportive of me. My sisters are my best friends. My father, they disagree with me, but
Right.
they support me. I think I have maybe one cousin who thinks I'm like a coon and I'm lost, which is fine. It's I haven't seen him in 10 years. In terms of my friends, I had to shed them. So I wouldn't even say once you understand liberalism. I've always had differences with them, and I never understood that it was because I was a conservative thinker. I value hard work, I value logic, and if you value those 2 things, you can't have liberal friends because they constantly feel attacked, right? They're in this state of this victim state at all times, and so having basic conversations like this can turn into tears. You know what I mean? You're just like, whoa, we're just talking about facts here, and they really deeply and truly value their feelings over facts.
That's the whole. That's it right there. Yeah. No. It is, and it does induce. I think it actually induces psychosis. I mean, I think some of the stuff we're seeing on universities is psychotic, but it's not psychotic like you were born that way. It's psychotic like you were made.
Yeah,
that way.
and that's what's sad to see is that I think that they're not conscious that it's happening to them. So it's almost like they're sleeping. It's like a state of hypnosis, and it is definitely inducing a real psychosis. Like, people joke and they say liberalism is a mental disorder, but it's not a joke. Like, it really is a mental disorder. They can't see the world for what it is. They can't have a conversation outside of their feelings, and, you know, and they feel attacked, literally attacked by facts.
Right.
You know?
I know. They feel that it undermines their virtue.
Yeah, they would say, you know, Candace, you're aggressive. You know, you're very aggressive. I'm like, are facts aggressive? You know, is that, you know, that's an interesting adjective to select to describe a fact.
So where do you stand on our president? I mean, this has been a dividing line for among conservatives.
Right.
We argue about it here all the time.
Right.
How do you feel about what's happening in the White House?
I love Donald Trump. First off, I think he's hilarious.
Yeah,
There's
he is
something that
hilarious.
is just like, you know, people always say I'm refreshing. I find him to be so refreshing because he's not reading from a script, right? Like, I mean, Barack Obama was a salesman, you know. He knew how to get on the podium. He could tell you exactly what you wanted to hear. And that's problematic because then you don't really know what's going on. You know, you can't differentiate between, you know, what's true and what's not. And I think the thing that I like the most about Donald Trump is that he's not afraid to say the things that need to be said, you know?
Yeah.
I love the fact, you know, right now I'm doing a video that'll be released later today about, you know, the NFL kneeling. I love that he just says that this is wrong. It is wrong. This isn't a debate. It's absolutely wrong, you know? And for a president to have the balls, you know, to get up there and say, this is BS, these people shouldn't have jobs, I commend him on that. I think that makes him a really strong leader.
Yeah. So where do you go from here? I mean, you know, one of the things is the media has been changing so much. I mean, most of what I do now didn't exist when I started. All I ever wanted to be was a novelist, you know, and I had a great career as a novelist. You know, it's terrific, but all this stuff didn't exist before. What do you see yourself doing next?
I definitely want to do a lot of public speaking. I have some public speaking events coming up, and I'm comfortable there. I was behind the scenes before I started making these videos. I was giving speeches across the nation about these sorts of topics, racism, feminism, why I do believe or don't believe in these kind of notions of liberalism. But yeah, I don't really know. I'm kind of just riding the wave. Yeah, trying not to make any, you know, mistakes along the way. I'm sure I will. Well, by the way, I'm totally happy to make mistakes. I want to seem like super attainable. And I think where I can inject my voice somewhere differently is, I think, with, you know, people like Ben Shapiro and Milo and Charlie Kirk. They hit these college campuses and they speak to conservatives. I'd like to speak to liberals. You know, I like to speak to Black people, you know, and get in their faces and say, here's my story. I'm one of you. I'm no different. Why am I here and you're there?
Yeah, I have to say, if Black people wake up to what Democrats have done to them, the Democrats are the worst thing. I mean, they're just, you know, the party will vanish. The party will vanish. That's why they have to keep accusing us of racism, because otherwise people might listen to what we're actually saying.
Right, and it really is just an education thing. People have to speak to them. You have to get on their level, and I think it does have to come from an African American because they can't hear it if it's coming from a white person.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure. I think you're a rock star, Candace.
You're really
terrific. Your videos are great. I think you're going to go far, and I'm really happy you came on and talked to me. Although I'm really miserable you came in so late. After I discovered you, I made you what you wanted. Thank you. I have no idea how we're going to get you off the set. We wanted to lift you up through the ceiling, but I think you're just going to have to walk off through the.
I'm just going to walk off.
All right.
Slowly walk off. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. I don't think we can end. Cadance Owens is Red Pill Black. What am I looking at? I'm looking at this camera. Yeah. That's what you're telling me. Okay. I wondered what that was. I thought it was a sniper. Where is Red Pill Black? You can find it on YouTube.